Hello, everyone. I thought I would dissect this prose poem that I wrote. I'm going to read it to you in full, and then I'm going to dissect why I think it's good. The sea is like a lover that beguiles the heart and soul. It makes one believe that there was never such a thing as earth, and that all mists never die. Even when the moon refuses to shine, it remains true to the night, peering deeply into heaven's eternal light. Now, the reason why I think this works, now, of course, everyone is going to have their own criteria for what makes a good poem, so obviously there's going to be a bit of subjectivity here. But the reason why I think this works is, for one, well, let's look at the first sentence. The sea is like a lover that beguiles the heart and soul. Well, I'm comparing the sea to something human. I'm using personification because when you use personification, you can take an object or an aspect of nature like the sea, and you can identify with it in a way that is more soulful. Because if you can give something a human-like characteristic, because we're human, we can, because we're human, we will be able to relate to something or empathize with it more when we identify the human qualities in that object or subject. And so if you give something a human-like characteristic, that should bring out a more vivid image, and also it should stir your emotions a bit as well. So now let's get to the second sentence. It makes one believe that there was never such a thing as earth, and that all mists never die. Now, this sentence I really like because sometimes something can be so beautiful that you forget about things that are also beautiful, but they just don't compare to it. Something can be so striking that you forget about everything else, and this could be with a person, a landscape. Sometimes I look at the sky and then I forget all about the forest that's surrounding me, even though the forest might be in many ways just as beautiful or just as glorious. But when the mind takes focus of one particular sight, sometimes it can consume you because your emotions are all aimed and triggered towards that one sight. And so, because as humans especially, we're not very good at multitasking, and we're not very good at visualizing more than one thing at once. So we tend to focus all of our cognitive faculties on one particular thing or object at a time. So sometimes, again, something can be so beautiful or glorious that we forget about our surroundings. And everybody has gone through that, but by articulating it and stating it in this writing, uh, it makes such experiences more clear, because one thing that can make great writing is that when a writer states something that we've all experienced but we've never quite put into words, and I think that's what that sentence does. And so now I will get to the final sentence. Even when the moon refuses to shine, it remains true to the night, peering deeply into heaven's eternal light. Now, this sentence works for a couple of reasons. For one, I used rhyme at the very end. Now, notice I didn't use rhyme throughout most of the poem, mainly because I think that if every sentence ends with a rhyme, it becomes too hokey. But I think that if you can place a good rhyme, sometimes at the beginning, sometimes at the end, that it can almost be a form of punctuation. It adds what you might say is a pungent climax to the experience. And so I think that if you end a poem with a rhyme, not always, but if you end with a rhyme, that that can make the piece of writing stand out in the reader's mind because it ends with harmony, with rhythm. And so I think that's one reason. But let me read it again. Even when the moon refuses to shine, it remains true to the night. So again, we're using personification by saying that the sea remains true even when the moon disappears. So again, the sea is true, like a loyal lover might be. And then it says, peering deeply into heaven's eternal light, because and basically what that means is that even when there is no moon, the sea is still looking up at the sky and into the stars, and so in that sense it is eternal. And because we all have had experiences where we're looking at a sea or a lake, and even though the sun might not be shining or the moon might not be out, the sea is always reflecting whatever is above it. So in that sense, it is almost cosmically eternal. And so again, these are experiences that we've all had. But I think that if you can put it into words in a way that has some rhythm to it, or that uses personification, you, that's the sign of a great poem. It's taking experiences that we've all had, but articulating it in a way that is unique to you, which you can do with things like rhyme, harmony, personification, comparing and contrasting. And that's why I think this poem works so well, because of all of those things. So, and again, there are other more complex, longer poems that I could dissect, but I just thought that this was a simple enough poem that I could do it in a few short minutes, so I hoped you enjoyed my presentation.